All right, welcome to another processing lecture. So today we're going to cover coordinates, points, lines, and rectangles. I know that sounds daunting, but mostly it's going to boil down to understanding coordinates. So first things first, I have here my processing sketch for today, and I have my little header with what it is that I'm working on, who it is that I am, and some information about when this was created. So then I have my setup and draw methods. I'm going to continue to have these in every sketch that we write. They're going to be there. Again, we'll figure out what they do later, but trust me, you want them in here. So I'm going to continue to split stuff between setup and draw a little bit. We'll talk probably more a little bit in class about the subtleties of which things go where. We'll definitely have some opportunities for these to matter. Today it's not going to matter a ton whether you're writing things in setup or draw, but I'm going to split them out. So I'm going to write the size stuff in setup, and I'm going to write everything else in draw. So in setup here, what I'm going to write is I'm going to write myself a little comment about this size. So I want you to think in your head quick. This says 400, 800. So I want you to think about whether that's a window that is tall and skinny or a window that is wide and not very tall. In my case, we can hit run on that to see. We're going to get a tall, skinny window. That's because it's width, comma, height. So I'm just going to write set window size here. I encourage you to write something a little bit more descriptive than that. Actually, let's lead by example. So let's write set window size to 400 by 800, and we'll know that that's width by height. In draw, I've got a background of 255, so that is set the background to white. We talked a little bit about color last time. We'll talk some more about color going forward. But for right now, I'm just setting a white background. And then we're going to talk about getting some coordinates on here. So before I do that, I am going to get my sketch here. I'm going to do Windows Shift S to get a picture of my sketch. I'm going to close it, and I'm going to paste it into my little drawing app here. So, hopefully you can see most of this. I think my face is blocking just a little bit of it. So now I'm going to just draw on this with a drawing tablet a little bit. So the way this window works is right here. That is 0, 0. It's up there. And then this way is going to be increasing x. So I'm going to put x with a plus. So bigger x's are going this way. Over here, this corner is going to be at, well, how wide is this window? This window is 400 wide. So this is going to be 399, comma 0. And the reason it's 399 and not 400 is that it's 400 pixels wide, and we used one of them to make the 0, 0 pixel. So from 0 to 399 is 400 pixels. So that's why this point's coordinates are 399, comma 0. I'm going to tend to be a little lazy about that, and I'm going to tend to draw things so they go just 1 pixel off the side of the screen. That's on me. You do you. Okay. So down here, here we've gone straight down. So this guy is going to be the pixel that is, I just about wrote 799, comma 0, but that's going to actually be 0, comma 799. And then this guy down here is going to be 399, comma 799. So that's how our coordinates are arranged. This guy is going to be y, but increasing. And now, if you're a math student, this should be twisting your head off. You should be shouting at the screen right now, being like, hey, dum-dum, like, positive y is the other way. It points up. Yeah, true enough in mathematics, not true enough in processing. In processing, the positive y goes down. We're going to have ways to change that later, but by the time we get to being able to change it, you're going to be used to it and you won't change it. So it is what it is right now. 0, 0 is in the top left corner of the screen. Increasing x's go to the right, increasing y's go down. Let's see some of that in action. So let's draw some stuff, basically. So in here, I'm going to want to draw something. And the first thing I'm going to try to draw is I'm going to try to draw a point. So this is good. I've written the word point, and apparently that's something that processing recognizes. If I wrote something that processing didn't recognize, like anteater. Anteater is not something built into processing. It doesn't know how to draw an anteater for me. So it's saying the function anteater does not exist. If I put point, though, it turns blue, which says to me that processing probably knows what's up here. And it actually says the function point expects parameters like point, float, float. So we haven't talked about data types yet. We're not going to talk about data types this week. You'll learn about data types next week. But for right now, you want to know that integers are numbers and so are floats. Integers are like kind of what you think of as round numbers, right? So like counting numbers. And floats are decimal numbers. We'll talk more about subtleties later, but for right now, if it says int or float, it's expecting a number. This one, because it's saying float comma float, is expecting two numbers. I hope you can guess that those are an x and a y. So I'm going to try to draw this thing about here. So I'm going to try to draw it about a quarter of the width and about half of the height. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to write in 100 comma 400. So that's a quarter of the width and half the height. I'm going to hit run. And I got nothing. That's disconcerting. So when something unexpected happens, what I want you to do is I want you to go look somewhere. So where could I go look to figure out what's happening here? The good news about Go Look is that processing.org is a really great resource. So let me pull that up. Okay, so here I have processing.org, and I want to go into the documentation, and I want to look in the reference. And I'm going to look up point in here. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to see that there's some stuff, right? So there's lots of stuff you can read in here, but this is the thing that I'm trying to do right now. So I'm in point, and I'm looking, okay. So draws a point, a coordinate in space, dimension of 1 pixel. Oh, I might just not be able to see it. Let's see. So looking here, can you see the points? I genuinely don't see points here. So I think maybe it's just that it's a single pixel. Okay. How would I try to figure that out? Well, let's open our sketch up again. So here's our sketch. And I'm looking for a single dot in here someplace. Oh, I see it. It's right there. My monitor's a little dirty. If your monitor's a little dirty, you might not see it, but there is a little black dot right there. That's too small for me to work with. So I'm going to need to move on to something else. So instead of using a point here, I'm going to use a little tiny circle. So I'm just going to, oops, that's not how you spell circle. And I got the idea of using a little tiny circle from here where it says workaround, right? Using smaller may not, like using workarounds, either circle or square. right? So I'm going to use a circle. And the circle that I'm going to use needs a third parameter. That third parameter is the, well, I'm not sure. It's either the width or the radius, right? And those are a little bit different. So if you're not sure, what you can do is you can scroll down to the bottom here and you can see if circle is mentioned in the related list. It's not. So I can go up here and just type circle. And then I can click and I can read about circles. These things are pretty nice. So the reference for processing is pretty good. Tells you a little bit about it down here, right? That's the parameters. So extent is that third parameter. And it's the width and height of the ellipse. An ellipse is just a circle where it's got a different horizontal width from vertical. So circles where they're the same. It's a little annoying they don't tell you that here, but that is true. So let's bring up our thing. I just need something here, so I'm going to put in 5. So that's going to give me a circle that's 5 wide. Okay, now I can actually see the little thing there. Okay, so points are really small. So points might not be visible. Use a small circle. So I'm just going to I'm going to put the code that I had before where I was trying to make a point. And there's going to be something a little bit funky here. So this is going to be, we're going to learn something about ordering. I'm going to make this guy just a little bit bigger so we don't all have to strain our eyes quite so badly. So there's my circle, right? You might notice I'm not seeing a point here. If I comment out the circle and run it again, I can see the point. But when I have the circle, it doesn't appear. I was kind of expecting to have a bullseye there, and I don't. So here's an order thing. When you run this code, it's going through the code in exactly the order it's written in. So it's drawing the point, and then it's drawing the circle on top. And that circle has a fill. That circle has a background. So if I set my background to 123 or something, and ran this, you can see that circle is actually white on the inside. If I take my point and I move it below the circle, I'll now see the little dot in the middle. That's because I'm drawing the circle with its back, like it's a full circle, right? So it's filled in. So I'm drawing the filled in circle first, and then I'm putting the point on top of it. If you don't see something that you think ought to be on the screen, odds on it's underneath something else and just missing. The computer's happily drawing it. It's just drawing something else on top later. And you can't tell. So I'm going to put this back to 255 so it's all blinding and white. But you can see I've got my little bullseye there. Okay, next. If I want to draw a line, so to draw a line, I'm going to draw a line from, let's see, I'm going to draw a line from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. So a couple ways to do that. One is I can write line, and I can do 0, 0, so that's that first coordinate is 0, 0. That's the top left corner. And then I can type in the coordinates of this other corner. I might type in 400, 800. I might type in 399, 799. I need a semicolon after this, and let's get that to run. So there's our line. You can see it's actually going kind of off the corner there. Right, so that is actually a whole line there. If I wanted to make my life a little easier, because right now I've got this, if I change the size of the window, so let's say we make the window 600 wide, now my line goes to this corner, but then it's not a corner anymore. So if I wanted it to continue going to the corner, what I could do is instead of putting 399, 799 here, I can put width and I can put height. And the size command sets those variables. You see how they turn bright red? The fact that they're red means that processing knows what's up with those. So when I hit run, I'm going to get my width and height works. And if I change the window to be 400 by 800, it's still going to go top left to bottom right. That's how you can make things independent of size. You'll notice this guy is always in the same spot because that one's what we call hard-coded, right? I wrote those numbers in it. So if I wanted to make those things kind of soft-coded like this, I could do width over 4 and height over 2. Right, and that would give me the same picture, right? The circle's in the same spot. Now the thing here is if I change the size, the circle's going to move, but the point's not going to. So you can see the point's over here, and the circle's moved over there. So I encourage you to be a little careful with these. I tend to say that you should either entirely hard code something or entirely relative code it. I don't encourage mix and matching. That said, there will be times where you want to mix and match. It's kind of okay to mix and match with, like, I'm doing relative position but absolute sizing, or I'm doing relative sizing and relative, if you might do all relative, or you might do some, like, I want the button to be at least this size, but I want it to be at a point that's relative to the screen size. Okay, so that's kind of our line. So that's first two numbers are the start. Third and fourth are the end. Okay, next, rectangles. Okay, so you draw rectangles by typing rect. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle that starts at our... Actually, let's see. Let's make all of this soft-coded, all relative coordinates. And then I'm going to make my rectangle go from that dot, and I'm going to make it go to, let's see. Let's look at our little drawing tablet again real quick. So right now, I've got a dot that's about here, right? That's a quarter of the way and halfway. And I want to make a rectangle that's going to go over here and down a bit. So I want to make a rectangle that looks something like this. That's a really crappy drawing of a rectangle, Joe. You should be better than that. So, oops, lost my pen. Okay, so in order to do that, let's see. I want to go width-wise to 3/4 of the width. So that's going to be a width of, I'm going to make it 200 because it's 400 wide. So I'm doing, it's 400 wide. So that's going from 1/4 to 3/4. So that's half the distance. This is where a little facility with math comes in handy. You can do these a little bit guessier if you need to. And then I want to make this thing 100 tall. So how did I know what those coordinates do? Well, to be fair, I have used this program a lot, so I know what the things are. But if you're not sure, feel free to look it up. So rectangle, let's see, there's some rectangles. Here are options, so syntax, ABCD, so that's ABCD, so that's X coordinate, Y coordinate. Those are X coordinate of the top left corner and Y coordinate of the top left corner, and then the width and then the height. So let's go ahead and run this. So there's my rectangle. You'll notice the rectangle's over top of the line. It's also over top of the circle. So what if I wanted it to be underneath? Like if I wanted the line to be on top, I could take the line code, Control X will cut it, Control V will paste it, Control T will space everything else out nicely. So now I've got the line on top of the rectangle. That looks like crap. So I want to reverse that. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to paste it back up there. Run it. Okay, great. I think this looks better. So, what if I wanted the circle drawn on top? Well, if I wanted the circle drawn on top, I could take this code and move it down, right? So just think about the order in which you're drawing things. Remember, they just draw on top of each other. So this rectangle, oops. So I just hit tab to scoot it over. You could also hit Control T. So this rectangle is drawn in the kind of standard rectangle mode. So standard rectangle mode is first two coordinates are the top left corner of the rectangle, and third is width, and fourth is height. And you'll notice that something kind of obnoxious happened here. That line got a little long and scooted my window over a little bit. Where's my stupid scroll bar? I lost the scroll bar. This happens sometimes with processing. You kind of lose the scroll bar. If you lose the scroll bar, you can usually get it back by scooting over. Apparently not in this case. So processing's had a little bit of a brain fart here. I'm just going to comment that back in. I'm going to run this code. Maybe that'll fix my processing problem. It, in fact, did not. So in order to fix this, I'm going to save this. We've never saved a processing sketch before, so here's what I'm doing. This is going to be called... This is going to be called coordinates. So I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to go ahead and close that. Then we're going to go open it in File Explorer. So that happens to be in Documents, Code. I'm just not showing you my file structure here. So here's the spot where that is, coordinates there. And we can open this up. And processing is opening. Okay, and it took a solid second, but now I have it open. So there's my code again, and we can hit run on this, and we're getting our rectangle drawn where we expected. We've got our coordinates. If we change the size of our window, everything should change all kind of on its own. Things will get a little weird if you make the window short enough that this stuff doesn't appear. So if we make this, say, actually it'll always appear. What'll be a little weird is if I make the window smaller than this. So if I make the window 100 wide, then my rectangle, because its size is hard-coded, will end up drawn kind of out of frame. That happens fairly often, that you'll accidentally draw something out of frame. Usually it'll happen when you're writing games or something. It'll happen when you're like making ships that you can move around. So you've got to be a little bit careful just in terms of mixing those absolute and relative sizings. Yeah. So I hope you've got a little bit of a handle on circles, points, lines, and rectangles. If you want to switch the way something works, you can do that. So let's go really briefly looking at rectangle here. So looking down here, in the related, there's rectangle mode. So rectangle mode lets you write in the code rect mode, and then you can pick an option. There's several options. So there's corner, which is the default one, the one I just showed you. There's corners, which changes it so the third and fourth parameters are just the opposite corner. And then there's center, which means that your first two coordinates are the center of the rectangle, and then the width and then the height. And then there's radius, which is real bizarre. It's essentially center, except in terms of third and fourth, it's half the width and half the height, which is really hard to keep track of. The only two I ever use are corner and center. And I don't use center very much for rectangles, but I use it for images a lot. So we'll kind of get to doing this, but for right now, I think that's a good basics. Experiment with this. Make yourself something. Get used to it. It's going to take a bit, but you need to type it over and over and over again. So maybe make a bunch of lines or try to make a drawing of a stick figure or something. That's pretty good practice for this kind of thing. All right, I will catch you guys on the next one where we talk about a couple more basic shapes and some ways to incorporate color with basic shapes.